Let's call our workshop meetings to order. It is Monday, May 18th, and the time is 6:10. And need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Jefferson, second by Mr. Bacon. All in favor? And two, we're waiting on Mr. Oliver will be here shortly. Any discussions?
If you would, Mr. Chair, we'll skip A until Mr. Oliver gets in. We'll come back to it. Discussion about the track. So if everybody's okay with that, we'll move on to B. B's is an annual formality, Albany State University memorandum of understanding. We work with them every year to take in any student teachers and those type things. So they have submitted the MOU for this coming school year. And, so Thursday night, if the board is okay to approve that, we'll get it all signed up and delivered to them for FY21. Any questions about the MOU?
Don't we get, like a social worker too from them? Then we have
On occasions we do.
We're the
intern. Yeah.
Is that what she's from this year?
I think he's the last.
Okay. So yeah, and it's always good to, any type of intern, whether it's a counselor, a therapist, a teacher, anybody, that's a good recruiting tool for us. All right, the next item is, we're up to, time again to renew or continue our contract, with Colson Copiers. As you know, we ran all of our copiers throughout the district. This past year, we operated it off an extension. They gave us a pretty good financial deal. So we just extended it for 1 year. And so now it's time to decide if we're going to continue with them or move on. So, Mr. Judy.
Yes, sir.
If you would please, go with it.
Yes, sir. So when I got into this district, we had Colson in place. Honestly, they've been a lifesaver. They've been really, really good, really responsive. Anytime we can take it, basically allows us with copiers in the halls. It allows us not to have printers dying in classrooms and all that stuff, and a cost that we just cannot project. So it's really, really good. But what I've done, over the years, I've tried to see how we can save money, obviously, on what we're doing. I know our first contract, we were in the $90,000 range. We knocked it down to $84,000 for the last 3-year contract. So we saved $6,000 approximately. Then like Mr. Settle mentioned, we signed on the 4th year this past year, and we saved even more. We were down to $6,072.50. So we saved another $2,400, I want to say, for that 4th year. And now what they're proposing is going down from $6,725 to $6,320. So for a 4-year contract, they're going to replace every copier we have except the exception of a few, which I'm okay with because they're low volume. Like up here, some we don't have need to be replaced every time. So that's where they were getting us a little bit back in the past. So when the math comes out to in 4 years of keeping the same product we've had, $19,440 in savings. So pretty substantial. And we're actually getting more copies. One thing I noticed when we were doing analytics, me and Mr. Settle, we were going over a little bit on our black and white copies. This is going to give us out 500,000 copies more than we used to have. So our overages should go away. So that was the only thing we were paying on top of this. You pay for your color, you can pay for your overages on black and white. We had 6 million, we're going up to 6.5 million. I don't foresee us going over that mark. It's all projection really, but to try everything that's going to be going digital, means less paper. So in the 4 years, we'll end up saving shade under 20 grand from basically having the same product. That's pretty much what it is. So we'll keep, what they'll do, they'll come in over the summer, do a clean sweep of all the copiers that have been replaced, and actually bring them back to where they save all the teachers' data on a jump drive, bring it to the new one, so there's really minimal learning curve for. And I know their service is really reliable, so they've been a big help for us. And Seth can speak to it. They print a lot of copies. I don't really have much problems out of them. They just work, so I've been happy. And they're out about Austin, but they have a guy that services our area 2 or 3 times a week.
Anytime they break down, they've been pretty responsive. Get there pretty quick.
It was already, we had them, ROTC had a copy machine that we had. And anytime you call them, it's up here the next day or that day. They supplied all the copier ink and everything for us. All we had to do was say, hey.
And that's what I told them the whole time when I first met these guys. I almost said, as long as y'all keep the service, keep the teachers and the faculty running, I'm good with y'all. So don't mess that up. And one thing they did do is Miss Edwards, CTAE, she's a pension needed a copier, and they just brought one in for them over in the ROTC area and just let them have it. Added it to it, didn't charge us a penny, just added it to the copy, so we just paid for copy.
And according to Mr. Coleman, since we've been with them under contract, we do not have to, if the board chooses to continue service with them, we don't have to go through the bidding process again. So, and by all accounts, like I said, Coleson's been good for the time I've been here. I had no complaints about it.
Yeah. I think now the new contract will put us in the 60,000 range. The quotes I got 4 years ago they were 90, they were low 90 in the 90s, and there was some 100,000 range, so they were just getting up there. So it's kind of one of those deals. There wouldn't be any savings going out and letting somebody else in, and I don't know if they even provide some new service close to what these guys do. As long as they keep lowering the price, I'm kind of happy with it.
They run out on a 12-month contract or?
So this will be a 4-year, because the copiers are basically limited. Working on it's 3-year, and that's one reason me and Mr. Sutter, we went and talked to them about a 4-year extension for that 4th year, because we noticed all our machines weren't getting used like they could be. You know, we weren't basically getting our money's worth, if you will. So we said, well, why don't we just lower the fee and we do it 1 more year? And that's where we're on this past year, our 4th year, and we didn't see any issues with it. And he gave us the analytics that Lowndes County uses these same copiers, and they do about 3 times the volume we do. So you know they'll work. If they're working over there, we use less than they do. So
We pay the same amount during the summer, we pay during school.
mm-hmm. Well, it's a divided over 12 payments. And we're still using the school course of schools. Well, some of them are in the admin area already.
But that price is based on a 6.5.
Correct. Yeah, so we're getting more copies too. 5.5, it's 0.006 cents per copy. So 500,000 times 0.006 is what we're getting in addition to what we never had. So I wanted them to build that cushion, and I don't want to pay extra overage. So, and we're still getting on cheap.
Okay, we need a motion to,
We'll do all that Thursday night. Yeah. We're just giving y'all something to chew on and think about between now and Thursday night. The next item is E-rate. Again, Mr. Judy, there was prior to COVID-19 hitting, there was some talk on the federal level of reducing or doing away with E-rate, which would be devastating for districts like ours in rural districts. So if there is a good thing that's sort of come out of all this mess the last 8 weeks or so, is that E-rate's going to survive. And what we're hearing in our meetings is it's probably going to come out even stronger than where it was before the crisis started. So, Justin, I'll let you take it from there.
Thanks, Mr. Settle. Yeah, this E-rate is basically, it's money given to us to upgrade our infrastructure for our schools, our fiber, our switches. Some of these haven't been replaced since I've been here, and I know just from looking back at logs of the serial numbers, 10 plus years. So the kind of the bid sheet right here that you guys have in your packet, these are 2 that met the specs that we, kind of brought out. The $172,186.83 is the cheapest rate. We pay 15% of that, and this is user losing money. This is the last year of the year, and then it recycles up to a whole new set of money. So we just got this one last year to use this pot of money. So it's kind of like use it or lose it, if you will. So for 25 grand, we'd be able to put new fiber in some of our schools, put new switches in. Basically what that does is keeps us running. We've done a really good job of keeping our stuff running. I know districts have called me and like, how, you know, we're down right now. Like, we're not. And the reason we're not is because we're able to pump some money into our infrastructure. This is just another way to utilize that. So, they're giving us almost $150,000, right? They're paying 85%. We pay the 25, and we should have some.
We're putting fiber in school, we're plumbing somewhere that doesn't have it.
Well, they have all, so it's about 10 years now. It's just inside the schools, closet. So it's not going to be like when we talk about putting our own fiber. We're still using the city for that. This is just going from inside the MDF, which is just the main brains switch, to the switches down the hall. The middle school is one that's got older, and that's just older school. Elementary's fine, high school's fine. Primary, we did something about 3 years ago, so this would be the last. So it's just using newer technology. And that, the fiber on this whole price is around $15,000. We'll pay 50% of all of this is the switches. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use the switches that we take out of the schools and bring them up to here to help our infrastructure, right? We'll get the hand-me-down stuff. We're not going to throw it away. We're going to repurpose it.
Fiber won't wear out.
Right. Well, it just gives you capacity limits, right? So what it is just all about speed. And then with all the cameras and all that good stuff, we're pumping into it. You just got different layers of fiber. So the fiber they put in 15 years ago has been upgraded to OM3 micron. It's just a different type of fiber. So it's not necessarily bad, but it's just old. So fiber itself is still going to work. But it's like a 15-year-old.
Well, let's make our computers go faster too, inside the building.
It'll make the stuff we can do as far as our camera server latency and all that good stuff, and ability to handle all that traffic there, right? But as far as computer internet speed and all that, it's pretty much going to stay the same. It'll help us at district level. So, but it is all network. So.
Speaking of cameras, sometime, as Jimmy told you, y'all need to look at the camera at the high school. There's graffiti wrote on the sidewalk at the high school. That's,
Yeah. Jimmy called me this morning. I think it's that. She was asking me about it.
on the sidewalk out there beside the bus loop. It's on the brick, right there beside the dumpsters. And right outside the CTAE, there's some graffiti wrote down there.
On that side.
Surely they didn't cover up, maybe they had the corona mask on. We really noticed it the next day. It'd be nice, you wouldn't have to go through 4 or 5 days of trying to find it. Nice blue paint message to Mr. Frazier.
What day you do?
One day last week. Mr. Frazier.
All right, anything else, Mr. Junior? All right, we appreciate it. The next item is just an FYI item too, and Seth can we can talk about it in the further on down in the budget, but just so everybody knows, there's a Senate bill right now that's floating. And if it passes, it's going to require school districts to pay TRS on all 49% employees. And for us, it's not that devastating because we only have, I think, 49% employees in the district. You know, but for this, you know, there's a lot of districts that are got a lot of 49% people, and it would cost them a big chunk of money. So we just been advised just to keep an eye out on that bill as it progresses here in the next few weeks. It's Senate Bill 175. We'll just have to keep an eye on that. I think Seth said if that came into play for us, if it did pass, that would cost us $25,000, $30,000.
unlimited balance. It would all be federal funded. None of 49% general funds. All
All right, all right, we'll circle back up to A there, if y'all don't mind. I don't know, let me think here, maybe we're gonna come back, maybe we're gonna have Seth talk. Let's have, Mr. Freeman talk about the budget and stuff, then we'll come back to, talk about where we are with the track project. So, Seth, I'll go ahead and let you take it from there. Item F.
Okay. Item L, certificate closeout high school project. We sent all the information, documents into the state. The last thing that the state requires is a certificate of completion by the Board of Education. So we want to bring that up for vote on Thursday night. That's the final piece, I believe, that that's when we'll be able to get the, I think it's maybe about 1,070,000, that would be the final payment for the high school from the state. So that's the last thing we're waiting on, and we'll be able to get extended in. I'm not sure how the state's got to do some things on their side, but that will be there.
All the front wheels done right there, they nothing have a warranty or redo, or columns on the front still standing.
Actually, but the columns are still standing, but they're supposed to be here this week. My understanding is they're getting ready to replace, I would replace all the columns, or certain more. Yeah, they're supposed to be in here this week, start doing that.
I talked to Jimmy about it last week. I guess it was when I seen him a week before last. I guess they used some kind of plaster on the columns that they wasn't supposed to be using because that was a different company that they subcontracted to. So Parrish then said, y'all been down here 4 or 5 times, y'all ain't got it fixed. We're going back to the people that we know can do it right. And they then said, okay, that's y'all's problem, that's not our problem, we're gonna fix it. I guess they went back to the original subcontract.
Pretty sure it was this week or it was to come in. The CAD walls were replaced, right about the time the schools closed down. It might have been that week, so, as far as I know, Jimmy hadn't reported any more leaking from those. So I think they're squared away. And really, I think that was the 2 major things, the columns and the CAD walls. So, yeah, I think that, the strategies would have signed off on the paperwork. Sure. Punch items left on there.
At this point, we've made everything. Right, done, signed off on, paid everything. I think we made our last payment March 13th, last day we were for the 138,000. We're talking about having a policy just for new employee health insurance, and what we're talking about is for our employees that come from another school district who are either on a different calendar at that school district or they're changing calendars. And right now, the only employees that we offer paying early and adding onto our insurance early are new employees who are straight out of college. So in those cases, we will pay 13 months. We pay the salary over 13 months. It's not even more salary, just split over 13 months. And the district has picked up insurance an extra month of insurance for those employees. We've had situations in the past where somebody comes to our school district, they're on a 12-month contract at their respective school, they come to our school and they either are on a 10 or 11-month contract. It leaves them with a month in gap. Typically, we ask the employee to pick up that month. We've had situations, recently where, there's other school districts that are paying teachers on other, calendars, and it could potentially leave somebody with a gap in coverage. And the question is whether or not that would be something that the board want to pick up the 13th month, or allow the employee to do it. Right now, like I said, we're not necessarily advocating for a change. We just want to have something that we have the whole policy wrote down, so we can point to in the future.
Go ahead. Don't use the name of the district, but go ahead and just tell them the situation last summer that brought all this on.
Well, we had a situation last summer, where we had some employees who were paid out from their district early, and so they wound up getting their last check from that district, and they did not have a full year's worth of benefits paid by that district. So when they came into our district, they were short. And they wound up, the district that they came from, they wound up paying for those benefits. But in the future, if you had a similar situation, once the former district is paid 12 months, there's nothing for those employees to go back on to those districts. At that point, they're either going to come to us, ask us to pay for the 13th month, or they're going to have to pay for it out of pocket. And that's just that was sort of a new situation. Like I said, that's typically between the employee and the school district that they've been working for, but it's a very similar situation to someone that's working on one calendar at a prior or at their former district and moving to a different calendar at our district.
Those folks would have ended up with what, 2 months of no medical insurance, correct?
They would have, potentially you could have somebody with 2 months, up to 2 months. In that case, it would have been 1 month.
So a teacher leaves, teachers, principal, assistant principal leaves in end of June. That's usually when the contract's in, right? Because
That'd be their last paycheck.
that's right, yeah. So realistically, they come to work for us the 1st of August or end of July, but they don't get paid until September. Correct. Their district paid through June, their health care, or the employee paid health care through June?
Let's see, I'm believing that if I remember correctly, it was just 1 month short.
Yeah. So
Which conceivably, you're talking about paying the employee portion and the employer portion. So the employer portion is $945 a month.
a month.
That's what we pay, health insurance on all of our employees is $945 a month. So if you're adding that extra month,
It's another $1,000.
essentially.
Is that gonna put them without insurance for a month?
Well,
Yeah.
how it would be right now, if we pay for it, we would only pay the employer portion. And of course, they would pick up the employee portion, they would have to pay us, to pay for them. If they do not pay for it, then yes, they would be out.
So what is the employee portion of healthcare? If we're paying $900, what is their cost?
It varies, it could be anywhere, I've seen some of the policies, people have, $80 deducted, some of them are up to $600 deducted from their paycheck in addition to the
$900 would pay.
the district pays.
I'll tell you what it is on mine. District pays $800, I pay $1,200.
every month.
That seems fair, you get $100 a month for me.
Is this something to deter a teacher from coming here?
Those teachers, last summer when this happened, the teachers that came here, they all came from this one system around us. They didn't know it happened. They weren't told the whole story from where they came from. And it was, Seth and them caught it, and we were able to get those folks in here and explain to them that they were without insurance. They didn't even know it. They just assumed they were.
Well, that would be.
They would have been, yeah. And then Seth, of course, like I said, he worked with those folks, got everything straight. They actually had to go and get their page attorneys and stuff involved with that other system. So they got that worked out, and I don't think we've had anybody come on board since then in this issue, so.
We don't need anybody. Stay away.
But if,
Don't look after your Lord, they're not gonna look after you.
once again though, you're looking out for one that may pay $60 a month.
It would be the same, but it's still, we're only talking about
See, the employer didn't pay their part.
Yeah, I got
The
it.
employer only paid
That
11
just
months
seems-
of it, and they came
That
here.
just seems unbelievable. $945 a month, Ralph. Plus, what you pay? Per month. That's unbelievable. Then you go to the doctor and they don't pay anything.
So I think what, correct me, said, I'm wrong here, but I think what we're asking for is one, to create a policy that's consistent to everybody. We agree with you that we were horrified when we found out these folks didn't have insurance. Probably not as much as they were, but, if nothing else, if the board agrees to a policy that allows anybody to have a 13-month option, it would solve the problem.
But that's just a one-time thing too.
Yeah, that's for 1 year.
one time thing. Like I said, right now we've applied it to people who are coming straight out of college. So you might get let's say you start as a teacher and you start working in July, you don't receive your first paycheck till the end of September. So you're essentially working 2.5 months before you ever receive your first paycheck. So we break up their salary where they get the first paycheck at the end of August. That point they go ahead and start covering the insurance. The issue is, like I said, if we do it for 13 months, we could have a situation where you can do 14. Somebody's on the 12 month. So let's say somebody's on a 12-month calendar at another school district, so let's say they're a principal, or some other 12-month employee, and they come on work in Worth County, and they're just going to be a 10-month employee as a teacher. Then there's 2 months there that instead of getting, they got their last check in June, their next check from us will period be in September. So, and that's nothing, we're not necessarily breaking anything for this week, it's just,
Right. It's a discussion going.
I'm not sure that we should be. Was it a good teacher or bad teacher we had on our board? We're not helping them. And I'm like you, I don't know that I could have went from the time I started school until the end of September. And they have to give you a $945 check for July, August. And then, if you asked me for $1,800, I just graduated college. Actually asking me for almost $2,000. I'm not sure that a young college student, or, some people still live paycheck to paycheck, even our teachers. If you went from Tipp County to Worth County, and I don't know what school system it was, but Tipp County does this, you put here, I'm not paying the insurance no more, you own your own.
Most people don't know, most people will not know it when they get here.
It only hurts you if you had to go to the hospital. You didn't have any insurance.
Most people do not know about the
I didn't know that.
They would allow on our new system, when people get their physical, you can't see that amounts listed on there.
I might not know it because I didn't have insurance.
So we're just looking at some set that we're working with Tommy on, but just so we have positive, we can just, we don't want anybody left out in the cold. If I remember correctly, one of those employees left quick at that question. I mean, it was, I think it was pretty low light what that other district did, but it's neither here nor there. We were prepared to do whatever, we weren't gonna leave them out the cold. We were gonna do whatever we had to do. We got it worked out. We just wanna, moving forward, we probably just need to have clearer policy on how to handle this. With that, thanks.
Discussion, letter H, FY 21 budget resolution. And we've also see there a 14% budget reduction for FY 21. That budget reduction is coming from the state, that is coming, it will be applied to our QBE grant, operation grants, as well as some of our other grants that we receive. Right now, we do not know exactly how much funding we're going to receive for next year. That's not going to be decided until the legislature resumes its session. I think it's going to resume middle of June. So right now, we're not going to be able to pass the budget until we know exactly how much funding we have. 70% of our funding comes from the state. So most districts will be advised to pass the funding resolution. We've been looking at the information on this. We have to pass one for each month that we operate without an adopted budget. Right now, we're not sure when we'll be able to get a budget approved, when we'll be able to have all the budget hearings. And right now, I guess our best guess is probably sometime in August. I think that's what a lot of people are recommending. One thing about this resolution, we learned that we can only spend 1/12 of our budget. You have to take your budget and divide it by 12, and that's all we can operate for each month that we have this resolution. One thing about the resolution, we can add items to it. For example, our insurance will be an item that we pay in July. We can list that as part of the resolution, so we can go ahead and pay the full price for it. Otherwise, any other expense we have, we are only being able to spend 1/12 of this. It was an interesting discussion when we were learning about it last week. But we'll be bringing a resolution in June in order to operate for July, and then July to operate for August until we are able to pass a budget and then go from there.
What are we looking at as far as cutting? Are we looking at employees? Or cutting the budget?
We're going to discuss some of that in a little bit. I wasn't going to hit that right here.
You were.
I wasn't, unless you want me to go ahead and start talking about finance, we can do that and then come back to the track, or?
Yes.
Okay. We'll go ahead and start talking about that. And we can start with our financials. We run through those pretty quick, and then I put together a sheet at the back, or a small report that shows you sort of where we're at for the year, how we're gonna go about moving forward. This first page of our financials, right now you see this is through April 2020. Our year-to-date revenues are $26,450,000. Our year-to-date expenditures are $20,739,000. Our revenues over expenditures at this point in the year is 5.7 million. Once again, that we'll have 2 months of accrued salaries in July and August, which will take out some of that. So it's not a apples to apples revenue versus expense. Right now, we're sort of about at the same spot we were at this time last year. The next page has all of our.
When was that 1/12 thing you're talking about? When did that start?
It was started July 1st.
How's that gonna affect the farms? I mean, is that?
It's not a lot of fun. I can tell you.
That's gonna be kind of tough, ain't it?
We're really gonna have to crack down. That basically means no excess expenditures, no unplanned expenditures.
Needs versus wants.
Right, yeah, I mean, you could even get it to the point where,
But can you pay all the needs before 12? Before I get there?
we could operate, do our regular operations that are paid, on average, like electric bill, that's gonna be, pretty much 1/12. One example the state gave,
Is that 1/12 of salaries, or is it 1/12 of everything?
that's 1/12 of everything. So, one example they gave was textbooks. Everybody's been buying we're not buying textbooks, but if you were buying textbooks, it would be at first part of the year, start of school, that's when you would buy textbooks. So you could list that item in your resolution, hey, we're gonna buy textbooks. So that's gonna be a variance from 1/12 of our budget.
What happens if you spend more than 1/12?
That would be, that would be a big question for Mr. Coleman. That would be, we would be in violation of.
But is this something from the governor, or is this something from,
This is state law.
so it's governor?
Not necessarily the governor, it's just a state law. Not particular government.
Everybody had to do it.
I think this is a state law from the legislature. I think it's just been in.
Well, isn't all law from the legislature?
Supposed to be, but it looks like in some states that's not the case.
It's not something that's necessarily just came down from the governor as a result of COVID or anything.
But it's because
It's not
that
something-
they're not gonna have a budget by 30 June, which the state law says they have to have a budget by 30 June.
Right.
They gotta have one, we gotta have.
That's right.
There's school districts that, for whatever reason, use these resolutions, because either they don't have the money to set a budget by June 30th of every year, or some other reason, so, yeah, this is not a new entity, it's just gonna be broader than you. Most of the school districts, I think, in our RESA, which is what, 17 school districts, in our weekly meetings there, it sounds like to me, it's probably every school district in our RESA is gonna go with the resolution to start off with.
But you have to list everything in that resolution, you go, and
If you're going over the 1/12.
But if you go over the 1/12, because there's some unforeseen things that could happen in that 1/12.
We're gonna have to ask Mr. Coleman.
Yeah.
on that.
I would think that, and if you're under the next month, to get back balanced at 1/12 and 1/12 makes 1/6.
Yeah, I don't think, I find it hard to believe that the governor's gonna have a task force going around clocking people, over this. you know, one, I think they notice, like Seth says, you know, most districts, probably by the end of August, end of September, probably at the latest, will have a budget in place. You know, so.
Oh, they don't go back into session until when?
We never pass.
June 11th.
June each year.
They after the election.
Yes. We can't do that because we don't know what they're gonna do.
We don't know what they're gonna do. That's right. So,
So really, what we're gonna operate at is our budget last year minus 14%.
Roughly.
Divided by-
14%, it could be 18%.
I pray it's not.
You're right.
It could change.
Tell us, vote and sign it. Yeah.
We don't know what they're gonna do.
And another thing, Seth and I've talked about this, and no secret in this room, y'all know we got one of the best, if not the best CFOs in the school business, in my opinion. You know, if you just go back to 08, 09, when the economy, you know, fell out on everybody, you know, there was that initial cut, but then they came back at mid-year and did mid-year adjustments, which is normal operating procedure. Usually in good times, your mid-year adjustment, you usually get a little extra money. Well, in bad times, cuts the other way. You know, so he's proposing 14% up front, but it'd be very wise for any school district to always keep in the back of their mind that come December, he may come at us again with another cut. Which goes,
What bothers me is the state, I think they claim they've got like 2.7 billion in their fund balance. Well, they're already gonna have to pull like 1.3 billion out just to balance this year's budget because of the shortfalls for that.
Well, they did told us last August, when we were looking at a 6% cut then for next year. That was last August, they said 6%, now we're just.
So it really won't depend on it, do they want to drop into their 1.4 billion they got left before they start showing up putting to us, which they probably won't do, they just tell us y'all got to cut it 20% instead of 14%.
long story short, yes, it could very well end up being more than 14%.
We've got to be prepared for that. So if it's not, get it is.
Right. Go ahead, Seth.
So our second page, that's all of our bank balances. All of our accounts are reconciled every month of April. We're still got to set up that other account, we're gonna work on that this week. We guys are just waiting on signature. Okay. Page 3. Just shows our revenues and expenses, broken down by our funds. Like I said, we're getting to the point where we're having all of our months on here, so funds getting a little small. Next page was our SPOS. For the month of April, we had 151,584.
What's going on there?
I talked to, Mr. Settle about that. If you look back at some of the prior years, you notice there's a uptick at some point in the spring like that, or if not, there's at least the highest. And I told Mr. Settle, I think it's got something to do with tax refund.
Sure.
Got to have, because I mean, everybody been shut down the whole month of April, so I can.
Well, this would be for the month of March. I would expect the month of April to be considerably.
March wasn't great either.
Well, we were open half the month of March, and when you got, like I said, the people were getting refunds, if they did go out and spend that.
But if you compare apples to apples, April of 19, April of 18, they're basically the same. It was 151 this year. It was 160 last year. The year before was 131. And if you look at March, I would venture to say if you really broke this down and got into the weeds with it, you're absolutely right.
When you look
I
at
would
student-
think that May would be even bigger because all of us got well, all of us except Mr. Settle, we got our $2,400 from the federal government. But, I would think that that may have an impact on the May SPOS money.
Well, if you look at that same trend, look at all the months in May, it's a big decrease.
Absolutely, but those other months didn't get $2,400 from the federal government to go out and buy new cars and new TVs. Oh, and Fiji family. I just think that's, you know, when we start looking at SPOS, and I know all of us in this room think that this SPOS thing is skewed somehow because nobody can explain it to you. But I do believe that May is gonna be one of those of not, having more now, some students abnormality. Because the federal government pumping that money in, people spending that money. I'll be interested to see what the April SPOS compared when we get it in May. Because May is always usually a down month, ain't it? 119 and 18.
It always goes down in May.
But if they spend it on food, there's no sales tax.
Still a sales tax on food, 4%. Still a sales tax. Some food is not, but most of it is. But if Walmart's doing their share and making sure that all those sales tax are collected. Not that I
That's
can
right at the state, because they won't tell you.
No, nobody can explain to you.
Page 5 starts all of our checklists. And everything is broken down by the district, I believe. Federal program is next. And
Hey, before you hop on that, Seth,
Yes.
I've been looking at this since this got, when Kim sent this out to us a couple of days ago.
Okay.
Long-term subs. Is that just one person? Is it, on page 1 of that, there's $178 for long-term sub, there's $267 for long-term sub, there's $445 for long-term sub. There's another $445. Is this one or two people, or is this?
I'd have to go back and get the exact, breakdown. Most of those are going to be separate checks.
Yeah.
So each week is paid weekly.
Yeah.
So, I would say that the 445, 25 twice is probably the same person 2 weeks in a row.
And do we have an idea what this long-term sub's for, or is they there in that school every day? And is that a necessity?
We can look, chances are it's tied into someone on FMLA or something like that, you know, pregnancy or something.
Because I see a long-term substitute paraprofessional, so they may have been on FMLA too.
Could have been.
Well, so some of those would be full-time, so I believe some of those would be full-time, so
That's the whole way up from 1973.
So we have full-time long-term sub.
there are some of the pairs, those are full-time, so it's from the ESS.
So I mean, fair.
I was thinking that we had some that we were.
Well, when we start talking about cutting the budget back, that's one of the things we really need to get in the weeds with too, and Bill, you talked about this a couple months ago, when we, and Seth, $300,000 worth of substitute. Been in the classroom, one, it's not good, two, the child's suffering, because they don't have a teacher in there teaching them that's certified to do that.
I think, I know Dr. Rouse mentioned it in one of our meetings. If you consider if a teacher is absent a large amount of time and then the student is also out a large amount of time and they're not out on the same days, then it's actually even worse than it looks on the surface.
A kid may be absent 13 days in a year. And if a teacher's out 10 or 11 days, that kid really missed 23 days of instructional time.
So is there any way of knowing if the sub changed after we hired ESS compared to what it is now? I mean, is there any way of knowing?
As far as the dollar amounts.
Yeah.
I'd
And the number of people is out.
have to go back and look on the dollar amounts. When they're settled, I had a, meeting with ESS, was that probably first part of March or in February. And
Or have we made it convenient for them just to pay out?
We suspect, and ESS even admits to that, looking at, the other districts are in as well. They do admit to that, yeah, that's probably some of it. It's easy, the process is easy.
Can we cross-check and find out if it's the same group
Oh, yeah,
doing all that?
we can break it down and tell you, we can tell you every what day of the week, sepsis is.
Right and money.
That's right, we can tell you that. We sure can.
I'd be interested to see.
it got to the point, back in February, we were paying, I believe it was around $10,000 or $12,000.
We need to look at that really hard,
Real hard.
because you're talking about cutting budgets. And you're not coming to work, not just teachers or parents, everybody, or a bit work. Because we're penalizing students.
I agree.
That's what they need to find a dollar excuse.
That is something I've actually written up as a proposal, for this coming year to, with our board right now, the board policy allows at the discretion of the superintendent to, ask for a doctor's excuse. So that's something I have been drafting up for the employee handbook for next year. I think we're right. I mean, we gotta do something, because they're just,
Yeah, especially if it's
you got some folks that Seth can talk more about it, but I'm just amazed at the amount of unpaid leave people take. You
But
know,
I don't think we ought to allow that.
so, well, a lot of it has, at least from our angle of it, we learn about it after the fact. So by the time we know they took unpaid leave, they've already taken it.
But, yes, whatever this is, they know it, don't they?
Well, if someone's out of leave and they decide to call that morning and say they're not coming in, school days possibly already started by the time,
That's probably a conversation we need to pull Tommy in on.
I think if you cut it out, they won't do it.
Yeah, that's probably a conversation we need to have Tommy come in.
but people are not paid for days. Once they exhaust leave, they're not paid for those days. So,
But it's like Russ said, somebody's missing instructional time in the classroom.
And you're penalizing us twice.
Yeah, because we're still paying the sub.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still paying the sub. And it goes back to you guys, I know you all remember, year before last when, you know, all that stuff about tenure and everything got all jacked up. You know, we had someone address the board, you know, who said that was offended because I supposedly said that attendance is part of teacher's evaluation. And that person argued that is not true. And, y'all remember that presentation? Well, it is. It's part of the standard that covers professionalism. And, you know, Seth to tell you, because I say it all the time, and our admin meetings to our principals have got, if you've got a teacher that is, or an employee period, whether it's a teacher or not, with excessive absences, it should be showing up in their evaluation. There's something at the end of the year. Because I mean, you know, stuff happens. You know, I understand 1 year, the wheels can come off of you, you know, and every time you turn around, you're you're sick or this or that. But that doesn't happen every year for 30 straight years. All right, so, but if we're not documenting that stuff in the evaluations, then it's hard to get a trend on the report. You know, and, you know, so that we gotta get better at that. We got, you know, administrators gotta get better at documenting and having those conversations with folks. You know, folks gotta understand eventually, you know, even good employees. Y'all know this being business folks, regardless of how good your employee is, if he or she never comes to work, eventually you gotta entertain letting that person go. What good are they to your business if they're never at work? And, so I agree with you. I say all that, Mr. Oliver, say I agree with you. But I think it'd be wise to get the attorney in on that conversation about it. Gets a little tricky on when you can and can't deny leave and all that, legal, stuff, so.
Well, it's obvious that we can't keep paying $30,000, $300,000 for substitutes.
I agree.
I mean, that's just obvious.
We do have some full-time positions that come from ESS. We do have some clerical positions that they work full-time. And, when I was quoting the amount we're paying, the things where that did not include, that was. We did not budget last year for what we paid, out, in that department.
You'll hide there, don't y'all think? All right, you go ahead.
We also have the federal program checks, if there's any questions. Y'all can look at them, ask me on Thursday. Behind that, we have all of our, LSAs, those are on page 21. And that's starts with high school, middle school, elementary school, primary school. After the primary school, we have the school nutrition report. Right now, year-to-date, school nutrition year-to-date cost of $387,000. And this office was well on our way to have a very successful year with our numbers. Obviously, the COVID virus was that.
Because of that, Mr. Freeman, we anticipate any issues with pay for those employees during the summer?
Other than, if we won't, not like if we just during the summer, if for some reason we don't start back, we'll go all, Ms. Thomas's payroll for school nutrition runs about $45,000. Kids are not being served, meals are not being served. She does not receive funding from the feds. I'm thinking it's somewhere around, well, for example, you look at this financial statement right here. Normally she would have on that federal and the current one, she would have $578,000. And this one she did. State roughly around 5,001. That is continued bill. I'm not sure if part of the state budget could take that out of the same. But we're not certain, children, when school starts, and there could be, we have, a reduced factors. They are, you know, a lot of work to get the school nutrition program, financial safety. And for some reason, you know, we continue to pay and not seeing performance. And that could, we could see some of that success, be hampered, definitely, lose some of those margins. We'll see. One thing about, school nutrition is we are looking at evaluating each lunchroom as what needs to be upgraded. And something we're so aligned with all about with Ms. Thomas is, you know, upgrading those lunchrooms with school nutrition. Probably they're in the shape they can do it. That money you go here, but we keep having to pay salaries and no revenue coming in. And that's something that's gonna fall back on the district. That's one of those upgrades. She mentioned some amounts to us, I don't have it, got it down.
Well, are we gonna get to the point where, I know, don't we have a waiver for a summer feeding program?